بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا وقائدنا وقدوتنا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله تبارك وتعالى عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا أما بعد. Welcome back, brothers and sisters, to day 8 of 28 in our Ramadan series on the book ثلاثون سببا للسعادة, or 30 means of acquiring sa'ada or happiness. Today, inshallah, the 8th mean, as mentioned by the Shaykh, is أطرد الفراغ بالعمل, that translated, cast away freedom or free time by getting busy, or cast away idle time with busyness. So, in this 8th means of acquiring happiness, this has to do with the way that you and we spend our times, or we spend the time that we have been blessed with in this world. And there are a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. For example, the Prophet ﷺ is narrated to have said, اغتنم خمسا قبل خمس, that seek or take advantage of 5 things before they are replaced with 5 other things. And among those 5 things, the Prophet ﷺ says, فراغك قبل شغلك, that take advantage of your free time before you become too busy, or before you become occupied. And this is something that a lot of us, we realize oftentimes when it's too late, that when we had the time to do something, we didn't take advantage of that time, and we didn't use it in a manner that was conducive, or that was conducive to achieving the end that we desired, or achieving the result that we desired. And oftentimes this is realized only after it's too late. But after this realization, a lot of us still, we don't take this a step further, and the little free time that we currently have in our lives, that is also not occupied by something that is meaningful or something that is useful. So there is nobody that has no free time. No matter how busy you are, there is always some time that you can carve out of your day, or out of your week, or out of your month. And it's not that we are always, busy. So the idle mind is the prime target for shaitan. So shaitan is, loves the person who is free and the person who is doing nothing. Because this person is very easy to influence. It's much easier to, even just think about it yourself. It's much easier for you to convince somebody who is doing nothing to do something, to come with you, usually something bad, than it is to convince somebody who is already doing something to switch from doing that to something else. So, for example, somebody who is just sitting at home doing nothing, it's fairly easy to convince this person to do something good, and it's even easier to convince this person to do something bad, because this person is, is really not doing anything right now, so anything is better than nothing. And the person on the other hand, the person who is currently involved in doing something, the person is doing something good, ideally, it's very difficult to convince this person to go and switch from whatever it is that they are doing right now and go do something else. So spending idle time is an obstacle to achieving sa'ada. And this is something, it's actually very dangerous for somebody to spend idle time doing nothing. That is, this is a waste of one's resources, one's opportunities. And this is something that, to a degree, to the best of our ability, we should stay away from. There is an ancient torture technique that that the Shaykh even mentions in his book over here, that what would be done is that the prisoner would be put underneath a drip of water. So basically, every minute there would be one drop that would come onto this person's head, and this is something that nothing else. So it's not painful or anything like this, but just 1 minute, one drop. But this person is solitary. This person is in solitary confinement, and this person, what was observed regarding this ancient torture technique is that eventually this person sitting idle in this manner, with this one drop of water, this person would begin to anticipate and wait for this drop of water every minute on the minute. And because this person has nothing else to look forward to, this person is idle, this person doesn't have any social contact, eventually this person would go insane. This person would go mad, he would lose his mind. And this is something that idle time does to you. That a lot of times, as an Imam, one receives questions that you sometimes sit there and you think that, how did this person have the time to come up with, go so down deep into this rabbit hole of sorts, and think about this to this perplexing degree, and waste so much time on something that in the grand scheme of things doesn't actually really matter and doesn't affect this person's well-being, not in this world and definitely not in the akhirah. And the answer to that is because this person literally had too much time on their hands. This person wasn't doing anything good, and this person had too much time on their hands, and this is why this person was able to do this. So you will see this all the time, that people who engage in meaningless debate online, or sometimes in person, but usually online, these are people who have too much time on their hands. These are people who have too much time on their hands, and these are people who this is how shaitan gets them to occupy their time, that by doing meaningless things that don't further themselves in this world or in the akhirah. So therefore, one should this is a barrier, this is an obstacle to achieving happiness, and to the best of one's ability, they should try to remain occupied in something that is good. And there are some points to reflect on over here. Number one, in order to take advantage of your time, it's important for you to set goals for yourself. There should be things that you, at any point in your life, that you would like to achieve. And some of these will be long-term goals, and some of these will be immediate goals. So every day in the morning, when you wake up, or preferably this should actually be done the night before, but at least in the morning, that today this is what I intend to achieve. So your grand goal of whatever it is that it is. Let's say a trivial example of, let's say you have a goal of losing an X amount of pounds by this date, at some date in the future. Now, in order to do this, what you would need to do is you would need to go and this is your long-term goal, and now you would need to break this down into manageable, achievable steps in the short term. And what this means, that every day when you wake up, there will be some small part of that goal that you are going to set out for yourself to achieve in that day. By doing this, first of all, you make things much more palatable for yourself. You make things more achievable for yourself if you break them down in this manner. And a byproduct of this, or a side effect of this, is that you continue to remain occupied in pursuit of something that is good for you, either in this world or in the akhirah. Number two, the second point to reflect and ponder upon is our priorities. Oftentimes, it's not that we are doing nothing at all, but it may be that we are not prioritizing what it is that is actually important for us to do at any given particular time. So this is most of the time we tend to focus on things that are urgent and that need to be completed immediately at the expense of more important things that may not be as urgent. So it is urgent that you reply to every single email that is in your inbox. It is urgent that you meet a deadline at work, or it is urgent that you any number of other tasks may be urgent. But in the grand scheme of things, this may not be the most important thing in terms of your well-being in this world and in the akhirah. And for example, salah is an excellent example of this, that we treat salah as something that is not urgent. Therefore, it gets pushed further and further back, and eventually we lose the time of that particular salah. And if we are fortunate enough, we make qadha of that salah. Otherwise, it just we forget about it, we brush it off, because this is not something that you are immediately held to account for. But in the grand scheme of things, it may not be urgent, but it is the most important thing that you perform on a daily basis. Not one of the most, this is the most important thing. So therefore, prioritizing what is important and making sure that we focus on those things as well, not only the things that are urgent. And number three is actually the third point of reflection over here, that this continues to surprise me, how many people actually don't have a calendar at all, right? So they have, we go about our lives in a very mundane manner. There is no structure, there is no real schedule that one follows. And as a believing person, as somebody who has objectives that they wish to achieve, as somebody who has the ultimate objective of pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also the other things that they need to achieve in this world for their well-being here, for the well-being of their families, it is imperative that we actually structure our days in a manner that is going to help us achieve these objectives. So if we live day to day in a manner that doesn't, that is not structured, that we just kind of do whatever we do whenever we want to do it, then this is something that, inevitably, half of the time you're actually just going to spend thinking about what it is that you should be doing. And by the time that you actually get to that, half of your day will be gone. So instead of that, you should plan your day diligently and be very conservative with your time. That this is another point of reflection, that not everybody has a right to your time. Just as we don't give others a right to our wealth, our money, our property, and it's not open season, nobody can come and take these things from you or use these things without your permission. The same goes for your time, that there are some people who are bad news when it comes to your time, and these are people that may not be going anywhere themselves, and they would like you to stay with them, and they are notorious time wasters. So such people should be avoided, and because nobody has an automatic right to your time. This is your time. Allah has given this to you. And it's your job. You are going to be asked regarding this and how you spent it, and not the fact that somebody came and distracted you is not a sufficient excuse for you in terms of why you weren't able to utilize this time correctly. Number 4 is avoiding distractions. We live in a world of distractions. So So like typically a lot of us, we work at computers, and computers are also full of distractions. So minimizing and avoiding distractions that lead you away from the task that you have at hand or the objective that you wish to achieve. This is something that is very important in terms of making the most use of your time. So eliminating distractions could mean that the first thing that I usually recommend for people actually is to turn off the majority of buzzes and pings that bother us on a daily basis. Most things that most applications, most programs on your phone or on your computer, they are meant to show up periodically through the day with unimportant, usually, things, and this takes away from your concentration, right? This takes away from your concentration. In fact, a single beep or buzz on your phone, right? A single notification that you receive, even if you don't actually entertain it. So let's say that you are doing something, you are working on a particular project or a document or whatever it is that you're working on, and your phone buzzes, and you don't. It's not. I'm not even saying that you actually pick up your phone and you begin entertaining whatever it is that happened there, but just the amount of time that it takes you to look at that and then to refocus on the task at hand is literally a couple of minutes. And we have dozens and dozens of these buzzes and pings on our devices on a daily basis. So if you are sitting there and a task that should take half an hour, and in that half an hour there are 3 or 4 occasions where something buzzes or pings on your phone, and your attention is taken away and directed towards that, then you could easily add an additional 15 minutes or so onto your task. And this is just a task that would normally take half an hour. And we don't realize this, but literally hours of our day are often wasted in this manner. So eliminating distractions, this is something that in today's day and age, this is extremely important, and this is something that we definitely need to do. One other point of reflection over here is the amount of time that one can typically concentrate on something. What is that amount of time? There are various studies that speak to this, but generally speaking, that scheduling your important tasks in batches of 25 to 30 minutes is something that is generally seen as effective. So it's not that you can only do it for 25 minutes, but if you are working on something important, then working on this with full concentration and focus for 25 to 30 minutes, you can use a timer for this, and then taking a very short break, intentional break, get up, walk around, have a snack, do whatever it is that you need to do for about 5 minutes, and then getting back to that task. This actually increases the productivity level of yours and the effectiveness at completing that task at hand. And the final point of reflection over here, this is something that I touched upon briefly just a couple of minutes ago. This is guarding your time. Guarding your time from people who want part of that time and who may not deserve your time. So, I'm not saying that you should always say no to everybody, but you should definitely learn to prioritize where you want to and where you should be spending your time, and realize that nobody has an automatic right to your time. Your time is yours. This is to be used to further your objective of pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and whatever other goals and priorities you have set for yourself in this world. And everybody else around you, they are secondary to this. So of course there are people who do have an automatic right to your time. So these are people like your family, your spouse, your parents. All of these people, they do have a right to your time, right? But not everybody in general always has in automatic and a right to your time. So one should learn to guard their time and guard it with even more diligence than you guard your property and your money. So this was the eighth means of acquiring happiness, which was to cast away idle time and fill it with meaningful work that you do. جزاكم الله خيرا وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.